Did you know that some Washington quarters in your pocket change could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars? From silver treasures to minting mistakes, these humble coins have a rich history and some surprising values. Whether you're a coin collector, a history buff, or just someone curious about the money in your hands, this video is for you. Stick around as we count down the top 10 most valuable Washington quarter-dollar coins and reveal their fascinating stories and current market worth. First up, the 1991 D Washington quarter dollar may not seem particularly special at first glance, but like every coin in circulation, it carries with it a piece of American history and a place in the larger story of U.S. coinage. Struck at the Denver Mint, the D mint mark just above the R in quarter dollar on the reverse side is a small but important detail that tells us exactly where this coin was born. Over 630 million of these quarters were minted in 1991 at the Denver facility, making it one of the most widely produced quarters of the early 1990s. Because of this high mintage, most examples are very common and are still found in circulation today. The Washington quarter was originally introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th birthday of the nation's first president, George Washington. The design, created by sculptor John Flanagan, features a left-facing bust of Washington on the obverse, with the inscriptions "Liberty" and "In God We Trust," along with the date. The reverse displays an eagle with outstretched wings perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches below, symbolizing a balance of war and peace. This classic design remained virtually unchanged until 1999, when the U.S. Mint launched the 50-state quarters program, making the 1991 D part of the last stretch of standard Washington quarters before the major design shift. The composition of the 1991 D quarter is another important factor to consider. Unlike earlier quarters minted before 1965, which contained 90% silver, the 1991 D quarter is made of a copper nickel-clad composition. It consists of a pure copper core, sandwiched between two layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel. This change was made in the mid-1960s due to rising silver prices, and was intended to keep the cost of producing coins reasonable. As a result, 1991 D quarters contain no silver and have no intrinsic precious metal value. Their value instead comes from rarity in condition, collector interest, and possible errors. Speaking of errors, while the majority of 1991 D Washington quarters are standard issues, there are always exceptions that can increase a coin's value dramatically. Collectors are particularly interested in quarters with minting mistakes, such as off-center strikes, double dies, or coins struck on the wrong planche. Although these errors are relatively rare for the 1991 D quarter, any such variation can push the value from mere cents into hundreds of dollars, depending on severity and demand. Always examine your coins closely, or have them looked at by a professional numismatist or grading service. When it comes to coin grading, condition plays a massive role in determining value. A 1991 D quarter that's been circulated and shows noticeable wear will typically only be worth its face value of 25 cents. These are the kinds of coins you'll most commonly encounter in pocket change. However, uncirculated examples, those that were never used and retain their original luster, can be worth more, especially if they've been graded by a reputable service like PCGS or NGC. A 1991 D quarter in mint state 65 condition might sell for around $10 to $20, while a near-perfect MS-67 example can command prices upwards of $100 or more. In fact, one of the highest-graded 1991 D quarters ever sold fetched over $300 at auction due to its pristine condition and full strike details. The true appeal of the 1991 D Washington quarter lies in its accessibility. It's a coin that nearly anyone can find, collect, and study without having to spend a fortune. This makes it an ideal starting point for new collectors, especially those interested in assembling complete year sets or mint mark collections. For more advanced collectors, the challenge becomes finding high-grade examples or rare era coins from this otherwise common year. Next up, the 1986 P Washington quarter dollar may look like just another coin in your pocket change, but it holds a meaningful spot in the continuing legacy of one of America's most iconic coin designs. The P mint mark below the obverse bust signifies it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, one of the U.S. Mint's busiest facilities. In 1986, the Philadelphia Mint produced more than 551 million Washington quarters, making this coin a high-mintage, widely circulated issue of its time. The Washington quarter design itself has a proud origin. It was first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of President George Washington's birth. The obverse features a striking left-facing profile of Washington, designed by artist John Flanagan. The portrait is accompanied by the inscriptions "Liberty" and "In God We Trust," with the date 1986 engraved below the bust. The reverse of the coin, unchanged from its original introduction through 1998, depicts an eagle with wings spread wide, perched on a bundle of arrows and flanked by two olive branches. The inscriptions "United States of America," "A Pluribus Unum," and "Quarter Dollar" surround the image, completing this patriotic design. By 1986, the Washington quarter had been in circulation for over 5 decades, but the coin's composition had undergone a major transformation 2 decades earlier. Quarters minted from 1965 onward, including the 1986 P, were made with a copper-nickel-clad composition. This modern sandwich-style coin consists of a pure copper core, with outer layers made of a 75% copper and 25% nickel blend. It was a response to the rising cost of silver, which led the U.S. Mint to remove silver content from most circulating coins after 1964. As a result, the 1986 P quarter contains no silver, and its face value of 25 cents is also its approximate melt value. In terms of collectability, the 1986 P Washington quarter is generally considered common, especially in circulated condition. Since hundreds of millions were minted and widely distributed, finding one in your change isn't unusual. In circulated grades, coins that have been used in daily commerce and show signs of wear, these quarters are typically worth only their face value. However, condition matters a great deal in the world of numismatics. Uncirculated or mint state examples, which show no wear and retain their original mint luster, are more valuable to collectors. A 1986 P quarter in mint state 63 might be worth $1 to $3, while a high-end coin graded mint state 66 or mint state 67 could sell for $20 to $100 or more, depending on eye appeal, strike quality, and luster. The highest known grades of this coin can fetch over $250 at auction, especially if certified by reputable grading services such as PCGS or NGC. These top-tier coins are not just well-preserved, they're often extremely well-struck, with clean surfaces, full details, and sometimes even a desirable full strike on Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers. Though the 1986 P quarter is not known for widespread errors or varieties, collectors still keep an eye out for minting anomalies that can enhance value. Some examples of interest include off-center strikes, broad strikes, die cracks, and double dies, though confirmed double die varieties for this date and mint are rare. Still, an unusual error or misstrike can push a coin's value into the hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on rarity and demand. Beyond its monetary worth, the 1986 P. Washington quarter is also a small snapshot of America during the mid-1980s, a time of political transformation, economic growth, and technological change. It was the year the U.S. celebrated the 100th anniversary of the Statue of Liberty, the year of the Challenger disaster, and the era when coin collecting was becoming more accessible thanks to coin shops, hobby shows, and printed coin albums available at every department store. Next up, the 1996 D. Washington quarter dollar is one of those coins that many Americans have held in their hands without giving it a second thought. Yet, like every coin that passes through our change jars and pockets, it carries both historical significance and collector interest, especially when examined closely. The D mint mark on this coin indicates that it was minted in Denver, Colorado, one of the U.S. Mint's major facilities. That year, the Denver Mint produced an impressive 906,868,000 quarters, making the 1996 D one of the highest mintage coins of its era. To understand the 1996 D quarter's importance, we need to look back at the coin's origins. The Washington quarter was first minted in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The coin's designer, John Flanagan, created a dignified left-facing profile of Washington for the obverse, the side showing the president's bust. The design includes the inscriptions "Liberty," "In God We Trust," and the year of issue, which in this case is 1996. On the reverse, the image of a bald eagle with wings spread wide sits atop a bundle of arrows, symbolizing strength in defense, and is framed by olive branches representing peace. This design remained unchanged for decades, becoming one of the most recognized coins in U.S. circulation. By 1996, the Washington quarter had already been in circulation for over 60 years, and the nation was only 3 years away from a major change in design. In 1999, the U.S. Mint would launch the 50-state quarters program, replacing the traditional eagle reverse with state-themed designs. This makes the 1996 D one of the last issues to carry the classic eagle motif, a feature many collectors appreciate. In terms of composition, the 1996 D Washington quarter is made of copper nickel-clad, not silver. Coins minted after 1964 no longer contain silver due to the rising cost of precious metals. Instead, the coin has a core of pure copper and outer layers of a copper-nickel alloy. This means the intrinsic metal value of the coin is quite low, just a few cents at most. But the value to collectors can vary depending on condition, rarity, and any unusual errors. Most 1996-D quarters found in circulation today are worth their face value, 25 cents, if they show normal signs of wear. These are known as circulated coins. However, in uncirculated or mint state condition, the value can rise. For example, a 1996 D quarter graded MS-63, which shows no wear and only minor marks, might sell for $1 to $2. Higher grades like MS-65 or MS-66, which have sharp detail and strong luster, can command prices in the $10 to $25 range. The most pristine examples, graded MS-67 or higher, are much scarcer and can sell for $100 or more, especially if the coin exhibits full detail and strong eye appeal. The most valuable 1996 D quarters are those certified by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC in high mint state grades. As of now, some of the highest graded examples, such as MS-68, have sold at auction for $500 to $700, though such coins are extremely rare. These top-end specimens often come from original U.S. mint rolls or bags that were never circulated and carefully preserved by collectors. Next up, the 1990p Washington quarter dollar is one of the most common circulating coins of its era. Yet it remains a vital part of modern numismatic history. While millions of these coins pass unnoticed through everyday transactions, collectors and coin enthusiasts understand that even the most ordinary-looking quarter can hold a deeper story. Struck at the Philadelphia Mint, this quarter bears the P Mint mark, positioned to the right of George Washington's ponytail on the obverse. That year, the Philadelphia Mint produced an astonishing 613,792,000 quarters, a reflection of the heavy demand for coinage during the early 1990s. To appreciate the 1990p quarter, it helps to understand its origins. The Washington quarter was introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of President George Washington's birth. Designed by John Flanagan, the obverse features a stately left-facing portrait of Washington. The inscriptions "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" appear along the top and to the left, with the date at the bottom. The reverse, which remained unchanged from 1932 through 1998, features a heraldic eagle perched atop a bundle of arrows, flanked by olive branches, symbolizing the nation's readiness to defend itself while striving for peace. The 1990p quarter was struck using the copper-nickel-clad composition that became standard after 1965, when silver was removed from circulating U.S. coins. This coin consists of a pure copper core sandwiched between two outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel. As a result, the 1990p quarter contains no silver, and its metal melt value is only a few cents, far below its 25-cent face value. Therefore, any added value must come from collector demand, condition, or minting anomalies. In circulated condition, the 1990p Washington quarter is generally worth its face value, 25 cents. These coins were produced in massive numbers and spent decades in circulation, meaning most show noticeable wear and lack numismatic premium. However, uncirculated or mint-state examples, coins that were never used in commerce and maintain full mint luster, can command higher prices. A 1990p quarter, graded MS-63, might fetch around $1 to $2, while coins in MS-65 or MS-66 can range from $5 to $15, depending on the quality of the strike and the eye appeal. Next up, the 1997p Washington quarter dollar is one of the last coins produced under the classic eagle reverse design before the U.S. Mint transitioned to the popular 50-state quarters program in 1999. Though this coin may seem ordinary to most, it represents a meaningful period in American coinage, marking the end of a long-standing era that began in 1932 and the beginning of a new chapter in modern numismatics. Struck at the Philadelphia Mint, this quarter bears the P Mint mark to the right of George Washington's ponytail on the obverse. The Philadelphia Mint struck a total of 595,740,000 quarters in 1997, a massive mintage that reflects the ongoing demand for small change in the U.S. economy during the late 1990s. To appreciate this coin fully, it's important to understand its roots. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The obverse, designed by sculptor John Flanagan, features a stately left-facing portrait of Washington. Along the top is the word "Liberty," while the phrase "In God We Trust" appears just left of Washington's neck, with the date 1997 struck clearly below. The reverse of the coin, unchanged since its debut, features a proud bald eagle with its wings outstretched, perched atop a bundle of arrows, a symbol of defense and military preparedness. Framing the eagle are two olive branches, symbolic of peace. This heraldic design stood as a symbol of American strength and values for over 6 decades. The 1997 P quarter is made of copper-nickel clad, a composition introduced in 1965 to replace 90% silver coinage, which had become too expensive to produce due to rising silver prices. The clad coin consists of a pure copper core sandwiched between 2 outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel. This gives the coin its recognizable silver-gray color while keeping production costs low. As such, the 1997 P contains no silver and has only a modest intrinsic metal value, just a few cents. Most of its worth comes from collector demand and condition rather than the value of the metal itself. In circulated condition, the 1997 P quarter is still very common. Since more than 500 million of these coins were minted, most worn examples are worth only their face value, 25 cents. These coins have been used in commerce for decades and typically show signs of wear such as flat spots on Washington's hair and reduced detail in the eagle's feathers. However, the value begins to increase when the coin is found in uncirculated or mint state condition. A 1997 P quarter graded MS 63, showing no signs of circulation and only minor marks, may be worth between $1 and $2. In higher mint state grades, such as MS 65 or MS 66, the value typically ranges from $5 to $15. At these levels, collectors expect a coin with full luster, sharp strike details, and minimal contact marks from the minting process. Next up, the 1985 P Washington quarter dollar may appear like just another common coin to most Americans, but to numismatists and collectors, it holds significance as part of the long and storied Washington quarter series. Issued by the Philadelphia Mint, this coin is easily recognized by the P mint mark placed to the right of George Washington's ponytail on the obverse. It represents not just a 25-cent piece used in everyday transactions, but also a snapshot of mid-1980s America, an era defined by economic recovery, cultural change, and evolving minting technology. The Washington quarter itself was first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Designed by sculptor John Flanagan, the obverse features a left-facing bust of Washington, with the word Liberty above his head, and the motto, In God We Trust, to the left. The date 1985 is inscribed at the bottom. The reverse displays a heraldic eagle with wings spread, clutching a bundle of arrows with olive branches below, symbolizing America's preparedness for defense and its preference for peace. This design remained largely unchanged from 1932 to 1998, making the 1985 P part of the final era of traditional Washington quarters before the advent of the 50-state quarters program. The coin was struck using the copper-nickel-clad composition that replaced silver in circulating coins starting in 1965. This means the 1985 P quarter is composed of an inner copper core and outer layers of a copper-nickel alloy, 75% copper and 25% nickel. As such, it contains no silver content, and its metal melt value is only a few cents, far below its face value. Its true value lies in its condition, rarity, and any potential mint errors. The Philadelphia Mint produced a massive 775,818,962 Washington quarters in 1985, making it one of the higher mintage years of the 1980s. Because of this high production, the majority of these coins entered circulation and were heavily used in daily transactions. As a result, most 1985 P quarters found today are in circulated condition and are worth only their face value, 25 cents. However, the The story changes when we begin to examine uncirculated or mint state specimens. A 1985 P quarter in MS63 condition, meaning it has no signs of wear and only light contact marks, may be valued at around $1 to $2. As the grade increases to MS65 or MS66, the coin's value rises, reaching a range of $5 to $15, depending on the quality of the strike, luster, and surface condition. These coins, while still not considered rare, are much more desirable among collectors building high-grade sets. The most valuable examples of the 1985 P quarter are those graded MS67 and above. These coins must exhibit exceptional surface quality, strong luster, and minimal marks. Only a small fraction of 1985 P quarters qualify for this grade, due to the mint's striking quality at the time and the sheer volume of coins produced. At MS67, a 1985 P can sell for $100 to $250, and some examples graded MS68 have sold for as much as $1,500 or more at auction. These high-grade coins are typically certified by top-tier grading companies such as PCGS or NGC and are highly sought after by registry set collectors. The 1965 Washington quarter dollar marks a major turning point in U.S. coinage history. Though it carries the same familiar image of George Washington on the obverse and the heraldic eagle on the reverse, it stands out for being the first U.S. quarter struck without any silver content since the series began in 1932. This change, driven by economic necessity, marked the beginning of a new era in American coin production. The 1965 quarter is far more than just pocket change. It tells the story of rising metal prices, shifting mint policies, and the transformation of U.S. coinage during the 20th century. For more than 3 decades, quarters were made of 90% silver and 10% copper. But by the early 1960s, the price of silver had increased so significantly that the intrinsic metal value of these coins began to exceed their face value. As people started hoarding silver coins, the U.S. Treasury faced a growing shortage of coins for circulation. To address the crisis, Congress passed the Coinage Act of 1965, which removed silver from dimes and quarters, replacing it with a copper-nickel-clad composition. This new structure consisted of a pure copper core, sandwiched between 2 layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel. While it retained a silvery appearance, the coin no longer had any precious metal value. The 1965 Washington quarter was the first quarter made using this new clad material. It does not have a mint mark because the mint suspended the use of mint marks from 1965 through 1967 to discourage hoarding. All quarters from these years, regardless of whether they were minted in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, were issued without a mint mark. In total, over 1.8 billion quarters were struck in 1965, an enormous mintage that reflects the urgency to flood the economy with the new clad coins and replace the disappearing silver versions. Despite being over half a century old, most 1965 quarters in circulation today are worth only face value, 25 cents, because of their high mintage and lack of silver. However, collectors place a premium on well-preserved examples in mint state condition. A 1965 quarter graded MS63 to MS65 may be worth $2 to $8, depending on its quality and eye appeal. Coins graded MS66 and MS67, with full luster and minimal contact marks, can fetch $15 to $50 or more, particularly if they have a strong strike and attractive surfaces. The most valuable 1965 quarters are those that have been graded MS67 plus or MS68, which are extremely rare due to the large-scale production and limited quality control of the era. A certified 1965 quarter in MS-68 condition has sold for over $1,000 at auction, making it a significant prize for collectors focused on modern high-grade coins. Another fascinating aspect of the 1965 Washington quarter is the small number of transitional errors that occurred during the changeover from silver to clad coinage. A few 1965 quarters were mistakenly struck on leftover 90% silver planchets from the previous year. Despite being over half a century old, most 1965 quarters in circulation today are worth only face value, 25 cents, because of their high mintage and lack of silver. However, collectors place a premium on well-preserved examples in mint state condition. A 1965 quarter graded MS-63 to MS-65 may be worth $2 to $8, depending on its quality and eye appeal. Coins graded MS-66 and MS-67, with full luster and minimal contact marks, can fetch $15 to $50 or more, particularly if they have a strong strike and attractive surfaces. The most valuable 1965 quarters are those that have been graded MS-67 plus or MS-68, which are extremely rare due to the large-scale production and limited quality control of the era. A certified 1965 quarter in MS-68 condition has sold for over $1,000 at auction, making it a significant prize for collectors focused on modern high-grade coins. Another fascinating aspect of the 1965 Washington quarter is the small number of transitional errors that occurred during the changeover from silver to clad coinage. A few 1965 quarters were mistakenly struck on leftover 90% silver planchets from the previous year. Next up, the 1993 P. Washington quarter dollar is more than just a familiar face in your spare change. It's a modern-era coin that reflects decades of tradition, evolving minting practices, and hidden value potential. While many overlook these copper-nickel-clad coins, collectors recognize that even a seemingly common quarter like the 1993 P can hold intrigue, and in rare cases, substantial worth. To understand the 1993 P quarter, we first have to consider the long legacy of the Washington Quarter series. Originally introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, the Washington Quarter was never meant to be a permanent coin design, but it quickly gained acceptance and has remained on the quarter ever since, first as a silver coin until 1964, and then as a copper-nickel-clad version starting in 1965. The design features John Flanagan's portrait of George Washington on the obverse, which had only minor refinements over the decades leading up to 1993. The 1993 P quarter was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, denoted by the P Mint mark to the right of Washington's ponytail. It was minted at a time when the U.S. economy was in a recovery phase following the early 1990s recession, and coin demand was steady. The Philadelphia Mint produced a total of 639,276,000 quarters dated 1993, making it a high mintage year. This quarter, like others produced since 1965, is made of a copper-nickel-clad composition, a copper core sandwiched between two layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel. It has a standard diameter of 24.3 millimeters and weighs 5.67 grams. It contains no silver content, so its base metal value is minimal, only a few cents at most. However, collectors do not value the coin based on its melt value. Instead, what matters is its condition, rarity, and presence of any minting errors. Most 1993 P quarters found today are in circulated condition and worth only face value, 25 cents. These are the coins that passed through vending machines, cash registers, and piggy banks for decades. But if you come across a 1993 P quarter in mint state condition, particularly grades MS-65 and above, that's where value starts to emerge. A mint state 1993 P quarter with a grade of MS-63 or MS-64 might be worth about $1 to $2, depending on the luster and eye appeal. At MS-65, the value can rise to $5 to $8. Higher grade coins, especially those certified by major grading services like PCGS or NGC, in MS-66 or MS-67 can command prices ranging from $15 to over $50, depending on quality. The highest graded examples, such as those in MS-67 Plus or MS-68, are extremely rare and can fetch $150 to $500 or more at auction, though very few examples have reached that grade. While not a key date in the series, 1993 is one of the last years before the U.S. Mint launched the 50 State Quarters program in 1999, making it part of the final years of the classic eagle reverse design. The reverse of the 1993 P quarter features the traditional heraldic eagle holding arrows with an olive branch below, surrounded by the inscriptions United States of America, E Pluribus Unum, and Quarter Dollar. This reverse design was used continuously from 1932 to 1998, making it instantly recognizable to generations of Americans. Next up, the 1988 Washington Quarter is a quintessential example of modern U.S. coinage that carries a long-standing legacy. While it might look familiar, this coin tells a story that reflects the evolution of American money through the late 20th century, combining tradition with changing minting technologies. The Washington Quarter was originally introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Since then, it has remained one of the most widely circulated coins in the United States, recognized by its classic obverse portrait of George Washington designed by John Flanagan. The 1988 quarter continues this design tradition, featuring Washington's profile facing left, with the inscriptions Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date 1988 clearly visible. On the reverse, the coin bears the iconic heraldic eagle clutching arrows and an olive branch, a design that had been in place since the coin's inception and would remain until 1998, right before the launch of the State Quarters program. The 1988 quarter was minted at the Philadelphia Mint, denoted by the P mint mark, which appears to the right of Washington's ponytail on the obverse. The Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 557 million quarters in 1988, making it a high mintage year and contributing to the coin's common status in circulation. Composition-wise, the 1988 Washington Quarter is part of the copper-nickel clad series introduced in 1965 after the U.S. Mint ceased using silver in quarters. The coin features a copper core clad on both sides, with a layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel, giving it the familiar silvery appearance, but without any precious metal content. The diameter measures 24.3 millimeters, and it weighs about 5.67 grams. Because of its high mintage and lack of silver content, the 1988 quarter is generally worth face value when found in circulated condition. Most quarters you find in change will fall into this category, trading hands for just 25 cents. However, uncirculated and high-grade specimens can attract collector interest and command premiums. Mint state coins graded MS-60 to MS-63 are valued modestly, typically between $1 and $3, depending on their eye appeal. Coins graded MS-64 to MS-65 can reach $5 to $10, while exceptional specimens in MS-66 or higher can command prices upwards of $15 to $40. These higher-grade coins are sought by collectors who want to assemble pristine sets or invest in condition rarities. In addition to condition, certain error varieties exist for the 1988 quarter that may boost value. While not common, collectors have identified occasional off-center strikes, double dies, and clipped planchets for this year. An off-center strike can show the design shifted noticeably off the coin's center, which can be worth from $50 to several $100, depending on the severity and visibility of the error. Double die errors, where design elements appear doubled due to a misalignment in the die, are prized but rare for 1988 quarters. Clipped planchets, which occur when a coin blank is improperly cut, can also add value. Next up, the 1983 Washington quarter is part of a long-running and iconic series that dates back to 1932. While on the surface it may appear to be just a common coin, it carries with it decades of history and represents a transitional era in U.S. coinage. Understanding the 1983 quarter gives us insight into how everyday coins reflect both monetary policy and the economic climate of their times. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The design was created by John Flanagan, whose portrait of Washington has graced the obverse of the quarter for nearly a century. The 1983 quarter continues to display this classic portrait with Liberty above, In God We Trust to the left, and the date 1983 below. This familiar design has become synonymous with the quarter itself. On the reverse, the coin features the traditional heraldic eagle clutching arrows and olive branches, surrounded by the inscriptions United States of America, E Pluribus Unum, and Quarter Dollar. This design was used from 1932 until 1998, before the State Quarters program began, making the 1983 quarter part of the classic Eagle series. The 1983 Washington quarter was minted at the Philadelphia Mint, indicated by the P Mint mark to the right of Washington's ponytail. That year, the Philadelphia Mint struck approximately 520 million quarters, making it a high mintage year. This mass production means the 1983 quarter is one of the more commonly found quarters in circulation. Like all quarters produced from 1965 onwards, the 1983 quarter is composed of a copper-nickel clad. The coin has a pure copper core, sandwiched between two outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel, giving it a silver appearance without any actual silver content. This change was implemented in 1965 due to the rising price of silver, which made producing silver coins impractical for circulation. Because of its high mintage and base metal composition, the 1983 Washington quarter generally holds a value equal to its face value of 25 cents when found in circulated condition. These coins are plentiful and commonly seen in everyday transactions. However, collectors and numismatists seek out uncirculated and high-grade coins, which can carry a modest premium. For example, 1983 quarters, graded Mint State 60 to 63, may sell for $1 to $3, depending on eye appeal and strike quality. Those graded MS 64 to MS 65 can reach values between $5 and $10. Exceptionally well-preserved coins graded MS 66 and above could be worth $15 to $40 or more, especially if certified by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC. Although the 1983 quarter is not typically associated with many known errors or varieties, collectors occasionally find examples with striking anomalies. These include off-center strikes, where the coin's design is shifted from the center, and clipped planchets, where part of the coin blank is missing. Such error coins are generally valued above standard examples, sometimes commanding $50 to several $100, depending on rarity and condition.